Now I invite Dr. Rajiv Singh, Director General, Indian Chamber of Commerce, to welcome the gathering.
Good morning, all. On behalf of ICC, it is my honor to extend a warm welcome to all our esteemed guests. I think today on the panel, we have some of the best brains in the industry, and all of them are very renowned names. I'm sure you have heard them. So we are all looking forward to very, very engaging deliberations today. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Mr. Debashish Mohanty.
Hi.
President
Welcome.
and
Thank you.
yeah, good morning. President Head Sales, UTI Asset Management. Mr. Ajit Narasimhan, CMO, Sundram Asset Management. A warm welcome to Mr. K. Ramachandran, Executive Director of Indian Bank.
Good morning. Thanks.
Yeah, good morning. Again, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Mr. Ganesh Ram, Business Head, Mutual Funds, BSC Limited.
Morning, sir. Morning, everyone.
Good morning. And last but not least, Mr. Rangarajan, who is part of the BFSI committee and who has been helping and guiding us. Let me also extend a warm welcome to you. So I think we have all the experts with us, and I'm sure you are all eager to hear their views. Just to give you a short background, I think COVID, everybody knows what impact it has made on the economy and the business. It has caused unthinkable disruption in the way organizations work and how they used to look at the business models. So the business models and the way companies operate are going to change. Many companies have still not joined back with full force. Many of them are still operating in work from home mode. And I think going ahead, some of the companies are even thinking of continuing with it or partially continuing with it. And the technology is playing very important role. And going ahead, I would say the next decade, or I would say next decades, would belong to the technology, and technology is going to rule the world. And when this entire business model is going to change, I think technology will have a very big role to play. Sorry. Now, if you look at statistics, assets under management of the Indian mutual fund industry as on October 2020 stood at almost 28,000 crores. And the AUM of the MF industry has grown from 6.46 trillion as on 2010 October to 28 trillion as on October 2020, which is about increase of almost 4 times. While many banks offer, but I think the bandwidth and the quantity is limited and restricted to fewer branches. In order to reach out to the hinterlands, the tier 2, tier 3 cities and rural India, because earlier there was a perception that that one has to look at maybe the metro cities, and the strategy was more focused on the affluent class, super affluent, and people who have capacity to spend. And there are many examples among mutual funds, credit cards, some of the foreign banks who have focused on the metro cities and basically looked at the tier 1. But over the last many years, industry has understood that the growth is really there in the tier 2 cities, and people there have equal capacity to invest and to spend. And this is visible in many ways, whether you look at the sales of gold or you look at the growth rate, which the industry or the financial sector is getting from the tier 2 cities, is really speaks volumes in terms of the scale of the business which lies there. And to reach out to all these places, all these towns, I think there is a need to look at innovative strategies of engaging and reaching out to the markets, to the investors, to the people. Because even if you look at a small town, like if you look at, let's say, in West Bengal, if I talk, or even you talk of any remote town in Assam, I think the capacity to spend and capacity to invest exists. But there is a need to establish the distribution network, and that is how the tapping of huge customer base of banks and collaborating with them, because banks already have established reach in most of the places. The PSU bank, I would say, have the best reach. So it becomes a win-win partnership for both to utilize the network which banks have and to reach out to the masses. And with this background, we are hosting the webinars, and we are basically looking at very engaging discussions on how do you utilize the distribution network and how do you reach out to the larger market. With these words, I would like to stop here, and I would like to once again extend a warm welcome to all the speakers and to all the participants. Thank you. Mr. Rangarajan, are you there? I think he is having some difficulties in terms of.
I think there is some network issue for him.
Yes. I think there is some network issue which he is facing. So, should we wait for him, or should we continue? And may I request, in that case, since he's having trouble in logging in and maybe he has network issues, so in that case, just to take advantage of the time and not to waste the time, I think it would make sense to request Mr. Debashish Mohanty. Mr. Mohanty, if we could request you to take over and please address. Thank you.
Thank you all. First of all, good morning, and my wishes for everybody's good health, spirit, and happiness. I express my happiness and gratitude to ICC for inviting me to be part of this panel. This is a very interesting topic, and this will benefit not only the AMC industry, this will benefit the banking industry, benefit the policymakers, the investors, the depositors, all stakeholders, and the people who put capital in the banks and people who put capital in the AMCs. Although here our topic of discussion will be limited to AMCs, and the third party distribution is a very big area. Because the topic says the potential of AMCs, restrict our discussion to the distribution of mutual fund product. Bank employees or bankers in general are trusted animals. They are trusted by investing public in any matter distantly related to finance and money. They are treated as God in some part of this country and the world in the matters of money again. And we'll have to understand this fact, this trust capital, which is huge and is a strength, and that's and banks do not require any other capital to just add on to the AMC mutual fund distribution. And this is the best factor for success in this area, and we have to little more discuss in these things. The genesis of this trust, I think, has come from nationalization of banks in India and branching out of allowing banks to branch out to rural areas, semi-urban areas, then rural banks, then cooperative banks, whatever may be. The bank means it's backed by government. Banks means some amount of knowledge, some amount of transparency and available nearby. That mix, this mix has created some sort of very reliability, believability, availability and everything into one. I used to remember a quote that God cannot be everywhere, so he created a mother. Mother means it's almost like God will take care of all youngsters or children or whatever. So similarly, in the financial matter, banker is an omnipresent trusted entity and throughout the nooks and corner of the country, this used to be. And people perceive branch managers or the bankers in general as an authority in the financial knowledge and also reliable and trustworthy, as I told, in their advices. So this trust to a banker actually came from public sector banks. And earlier, the trust used to come from the financial status, the strength of the building, the frontage, the strong pillars and lockers and all those things, because money used to be kept in the safety. So bankers were a safekeeper and all these things. People thereafter, subsequently, when private sector banks started operating, they're also viewed equally trustworthy because of the long experience of the functional trust that has come from PSU banks for many decades. So in India, let us come to the AMC side. In India, if you see that similarly, the mutual fund also started in public sector. Insurance also started with nationalized institutions, although it was in private sector, it was required to be nationalized. So this trust factor was built in initial stage. So, so let us talk about the penetration of mutual funds now, so that we'll know the statistically where we stand. So it is in the nascent stage. We know 30 lakhs crore is nothing so far as the percentage is concerned. Although the recent times the growth has been spectacular, and for that all stakeholders, specifically banking channel, has also played a very important role. So India's population is 138 crore. And if you see the bank account and all bank accounts, current and savings and every, whether it is Jan Dhan and all, it will be more than the number of population. That means it may be around 150 crore. But if you unique count you to, I'm sure it will be touching 100 crore or maybe more than that. So far as these many people have been banked or penetrated or having a bank account. They're using or not, that is different thing. They're taking benefit of that, the different thing. But at least they have a bank account and can have access to bank. 150 crore accounts, but 199 to 100 crore will have a bank account, which is recently can be counted as unique. Insurance penetrations also will be more than 30 crore, more than 25%, 20 to 37%, including all sorts of insurance will be in that range. If you count the number of people who have PAN card, this also has grown up like anything, and this might have crossed 35 crore number of people who was having PAN card. PAN card is an element of requirement for KYC and mutual fund investment. So I am taking that as a aware citizens who have got those elementary requirement. Number of people who file their return of income tax is touching 6 crore. That means not only they're aware about their income is above taxable limit and they pay tax, or they file a return tax. Number of people who have got demat account is crossing 4 crores, maybe touching 5 crore. And recently in COVID times, many people have added and new accounts have been opened. And in this background, if you count the number of unique MF investors, head count, not the folio count, head count, it will be around, and my estimation, you have to count deduplication you have to do. So it will be around 1.4 to 1.5 in between that, which is slightly above 1%. Let us take it 1.5%, which means 98.5% of the population of India are non-investors. And they need to be penetrated, like we're telling bank and non-bank. if you tell that investors and non-investors, so India is a nation of savers, and we have to convert these savers to investors. In comparable statistics of US is 50%, half of the population is having account in mutual fund, maybe for their 401k or whatever, but they are aware that mutual funds are one of the vehicle for creating a corpus for their old age income securities or whatever requirement of milestone goals, and they have accounts. If you see the contribution of mutual fund to financial savings, if you take a stock concept, then it will be maybe around 6-7%. But if you take flow concept, in a year, how much money goes where, that GDP's say 33% is saved, and out of the saving, whatever is saved, out of that, nearly 50% goes as physical savings, and nearly 50, or nowadays financial savings are more than physical savings slightly. So that financialization is happening. So still it will be around 45% goes to physical saving, 55% to financial saving. Out of that financial savings, and how much actually comes to mutual fund, if you see banks, insurance, NBFCs and other things, it will be in the flow concept, it will be around 2 to 3%. Why I'm telling these things? I'm telling that the potential that it has, and that's why the bankers can play a very important role in this thing. Why do we need? Let us talk different perspective. Let us talk about policymakers' perspective. Why we need mutual funds to grow? So one of the reason is that in India, the stock you 500 top 500 stock, you see how they are owned, ownership pattern. So hardly 8% is owned by retail investors. There are foreign portfolio investors, domestic institutions and government and this and that. So retail will be investing between 8 to 10% of the thing. And this actually plays a very important role in stabilization of markets, in playing countervailing forces against the gyrations. So this is also important for a policymaker's point of view. And how that can be owned, you can consider mutual fund is an intermediate ownership. If mutual fund is spread, then stocks also will be owned largely, and so law of large number is required. So this shows that there is a huge potential, and we have just started. And if you see this thing, why you need money to come in investment? Why not in bank? Let people put in fixed deposits. Why you need mutual fund? Your all August gathering is there. But just one point I wanted to draw to them, that 89% of our workforce is without any old age income formats or securities. So government social security cannot take care of them. It requires huge draining of budgets, and then need to invest and plan. When India was agricultural economy and agricultural assets were held jointly by the family, there were joint families. So since income earning assets were jointly held, the responsibility of old age was also on the joint shoulders. Somebody will take care in the joint family, pulling up resources. Now that people are depending on their own brain, in the service sector's contribution is in the GDP is growing. So people are depending upon their own ability to earn money and take care of their family. When they grow old, the responsibility will be on them individually and squarely on them only. And for them, they need to have investment planning to grow their assets, and that investment can come from NPS, can come from mutual fund, can come from direct stock holding. But all these things, the common man is not aware which is the right one, who will curate the product, who will advise him, who will tell him the risk profile, who will tell him where to invest, where to put, where to take it out. Bankers be available everywhere. Please let me know the time frame. I'll be aware about that.
Yeah, you are having still time, sir. You can take 5 more minutes.
Yeah. So, I was talking about the bankers' ability. There was a call in media 6-7 months back. Even one of the deputy governor of RBI also gave this in some meetings, told this some meeting, that banks should not be allowed to distribute third-party products. It creates conflicts, it creates mis-selling, it creates ABCD things. But the stage of growth that we are in, the stage of penetration that we are in, we should not throw the baby with the bathwater. And the huge potential, huge low cost and transparent distribution model that is possible through these banks need to be exploited, utilized, maybe for coming 25 years in order to penetrate fully. And so we are fully in support of banks being available for this distribution. And then let us see about uh, the bank's perspective. Banks need profit, they need to attract capital, and capital requires rewarding giving them the return, and your CAR and your capital adequacy and all these things required. But this way, adding revenue in other sources is possible. And let me tell you some figures that one of the largest private banks, their revenue from the mutual fund was around 700 crores in the previous financial year. The second largest private sector banks, last year's third-party distribution income total is 37.9% of their PBT. This shows the potential, and these are required in a balanced manner to help the banks grow and simultaneously helps the nation penetrate for mutual fund investment. Although income from insurance selling is 3 to 4 or 5 times more than that of the earning from the mutual fund, but going by the future potential, the number that I quoted, the huge potential for, and there is a compelling reason for the banks to keep a well-oiled machinery and to benefit from it revenue-wise. Last year, one of the private sector bank earned their total third-party distribution income was 2,800 crore. But where it gets set up resistance, that when the commission become the mission. That should not be the case. The revenue should not be considered as the only avenue that they should grow. They have their main core banking, so that has to be grown, and they have to provide credit. The society need to grow, and a healthy debt equity ratio that society need to maintain, economy need to maintain 2:1. So let there be equity for 1/3. So for which they need to do. Lot of SIPs and the trail commission actually helping banks grow their revenue in a slow, steady, painless manner. That is the way I think many banks are growing and can grow in, in a long manner. In a bank employee, if you see that they carry huge burden of the revenue target, they get transferred in every 2 to 3 years time. And simultaneously, they have the full access of view of the depositor's account, what income he has, what liability he has also to some extent people can know. So their consideration therefore always remains a short term. I am there for 2 3 years, I have a revenue target, let me push more of the costly product. So there comes in the appropriateness of the product, the asset allocation aspect, which is not viewed 100% by every, which need to be taken care of and cured. And that will rebuild the trust and establish the existing trust that I was talking about people used to have. And if that continue to have, then there will be no mismatch, because this mismatch of interest will lead to mis-selling, and that will be cut by the regulators, both RBI and SEBI. SEBI as a regulator, they have this investors protection as their goal. So they will ensure that the distributors have wider choice to offer to the customer and not only sell them their parent manufacturers. One a big bank is there who has a policy almost sell only one manufacturer, that is their own sister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohanty. You can, we'll have a second session also.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got disconnected in between because of some issues here, tower.
Yeah.
Okay. So let us hear from the next speakers also, and we'll come again.
Yeah, that's why I told you, let me know when I'm touching my time limit.
Yeah, next session. Sorry, viewers. For the benefit of the viewers, just let me give a brief background about Mr. Mohanty, because in fact, this has to be done before his delivery of the speech, but I got disconnected because of some connectivity issue here. Mr. Debashish Mohanty has 3 decades of valuable experience in mutual fund industry. Currently, he is the president and heading the sales function of the UTI AMC. Mr. Mohanty is a postgraduate and MPhil in economics from the Center of Economic Studies and Planning. Jawaharlal Nehru University, a certified associate of Indian Institute of Bankers. He is a certified wealth manager and a certified financial partner. He has undergone advanced management programs on strategy at Kellogg's Business School, Chicago, in addition to other certification programs at ISB Hyderabad and IIM Ahmedabad. He has been members of various working committees of AMFI, including the ARN Committee, Common Platform Committee, and Operation and Compliance Committee. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohanty. We will come again for the second set of discussions after the other panelists complete it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Now, let me introduce Mr. Ganesh Ram, who is the next panel member. Mr. Ganesh Ram is the business head for mutual funds in Bombay Stock Exchange. He has more than 20 years of experience in financial services, capital market, process transformation, and investment banking. Prior to the Bombay Stock Exchange, he had been more than 2 years of stint in K Fintech as mutual fund operations and digital products head. Prior to that, he was with Bank of America Merrill Lynch, India for 12 years, managing various functions like trading operations, mid-office, global securities, loan services, covering Asia, EMEA, and USA region teams. He has completed his bachelor's in finance, MBA from Symbiosis, and certified Six Sigma Black Belt. Now it is the place for Mr. Ganesh Ram to take over. And one more information for the viewers: you can text your questions in the chat box. That will be consulted by the coordinators. And at the end of the session, we will address the panelists. Normally, in the physical environment, we'll be able to give the mic and talk. Here, it is because of the time constraint, we cannot give individual things. So please put it in the chat box so that in the question and answer session, we will take up and I will raise with the concerned panelist. It's over to you, Mr. Ganesh.
Right, sir. Thank you so much. Hope you can hear me clearly. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this knowledge-packed panel, I would say. And thanks for ICC for having this webinar, particularly that topic, as Mr. Mohanty told. Very interesting. I'll tell you why I was very, at least at BSc, we were very keen for this, is something which I'll talk about. Thanks for introducing, but whatever I'm going to talk today is also something which I learned under Mr. Mohanty's leadership in K Fintech, because he was my client and I was managing UTI. So in that way, I have a great regard and gratitude to Mohanty for whatever I've learned. So I can kind of visit, and wealth of his knowledge and experience really talks. Okay, and unlocking distribution by banking channel. I think just to take. I think Mr. Mohanty has spoken almost everything. I was kind of reorganizing my notes because he has covered most of them, which is required. But you just take few points from there. We also did, at BSc, since a year, we have been actually focusing on how banks can make a huge difference to the MF distribution, right? So that said, some numbers which I want to tell you for the audience is the active bank accounts. I was talking about the current and savings account and some of those cooperative bank account is around 75 crores. So these are active, okay, versus a 2.2 mutual fund investors unique. Okay, so there is a huge difference, right? A number of PAN holders, has grown to around 42 crores. This is as of 30th September 2020. Another statistics, if you look at the top 10 banks in India, which contributes more to a mutual fund distribution, top 5 banks or PSU banks, which is already there. So which means the number ugly talks, PSU banks are driving the growth. Obviously, since the lockdown, I think due to this pandemic, a lot of gone as digital. I think these kind of help. But but is that the end? I don't think so. There is huge potential. I think as Mr. Mohanty also told, I want to reiterate that what really banks bring on to the mutual fund industry. If you actually look at the AMFI 2020 vision, which got released last year, out of the 7 key points which AMFI told, where they want to drive this industry from 30 lakh crores to 100 lakh crores, one of the 7 points is how we can use banking as a distribution channel. So in that way, how a bank can able to contribute significantly to mutual fund industry? I think some 4 points are there. Trust and branding. So obviously that's a key, right? People trust the bank, and there is already a system which is there. And second, the customer base are all KYC compliant. And thanks to the current government, I think the PAN are linked to all the bank account, and to some extent Aadhaar is also linked. So from a, even you can argue that no KYC need to be done separately for a mutual fund, but I will not have that challenge of having these customers non-compliant to KYC. Okay, that's a huge potential you have. The third one is the readily available investor base and the bank account. So I don't need to really worry about the amount or the bank accounts or the customer base, which are already available for the banks. And the fourth one is available infrastructure and manpower at HO and branch level for banks. So obviously, due to the expenses and all those stuff, AMC today can't afford to have a branch network like what LIC or banks are like SBI or Bank of Baroda, any PSU have. I think these are the 4 or 5 huge advantage what bank bring to the mutual fund industry. On the other hand, I would say what mutual fund brings to the banking industry, additional consistent revenue stream. As Mr. Monty told, it might not be as attractive like insurance, but definitely the more the SIP stays, the more the continuous revenue you're going to get, right? And readily serviced technology platforms. Today we have all other platforms, not only BSC, we have NSE, MFU, and even each AMCs have their own mobile app and platform. So there is a ready-made available technology platform which is there. It's all need to just get a plugin. And training the banking staff. So I'll come to that now. How BSC can also be what we are thinking and doing is the bank staff who are there at branch level can be trained by the mutual fund industry. So the training or awareness is not a big issue. Investor awareness program. So as a SEBI regulated entity, both AMCs and BSE kind of exchanges can also do an investor awareness program. An optimal utilization of manpower. So I'm not saying, in every branch you'll have this manpower extensively used for products, but you definitely can use the same manpower for mutual fund selling. And the last one is, obviously I told the opportunity to increase the bank and customer base. So there could be a lot of people who have not account with the bank, but not due to this mutual fund selling. So obviously, they can also add the account base. So these are the 4 or 5 things I thought which will be very useful. And I'll tell you, I think when introduction, somebody's talk about how penetration can help. Just to take a clue of what Mr. Tyagi of SEBI told a couple of months before in the media, that he said, I think AMCs can do much better in the penetration of B30 locations. Okay, Tier 1, Tier 2 is another, there's opportunity, I'm not saying, but I'm just taking that as an example. The average, I think the last AMFI data shows around 16-17% of mutual fund penetration in B30 locations. Okay, now obviously AMC gets a little extra BPS to spend for B30 investors, 30 location investors. But where banks can significantly help to achieve this, which also caught the regulator eye, is in this B30 locations. Okay, so I'll tell you one example. So 2 weeks before, BSE has tied up with Jammu and Kashmir government, and we signed MOU. Jammu and Kashmir government has mandated that create around 5,000 employment in JNK to just change the perception of people looking into JNK. So they kind of signed up us, and there is a BSE Institute, which is our 100% subsidiary on education. So the target the mutual fund platform of BSE has is to create at least 500 distributors in the next 1 year in JNK. So the reason I'm saying this is, when I spent around 3-4 days in Jammu, met a lot of people. One thing I realized is, I can probably take the names. So, some of the 3 or 4 major mutual funds had a great brand there. Okay. One was UTI, okay, because of their longevity and the one of the oldest AMCs. So all the other 3 were banking channel AMCs, branding. So one thing I realized is such a penetration, such an impact a banking channel has on selling the mutual fund in remote area. Jammu, Kashmir and Jammu, the rural people we met are probably beyond 30. Okay, I would say BB 30 is where they are, but they can still able to identify and able to ready to spend or invest in mutual fund, provided it has a brand. Okay, so that's where I think the huge potential where banks can definitely play a role. And from what we did in BSE, we as of today we have around 18 banks who have got onboarded in BSE as a distributor. Obviously, having that 10 out of that are private and cooperative banks or small scale banks. But PSU bank like your SBI, Bank of Baroda, Punjab National Bank, I'm just taking out names, are also part of the distribution. They have started doing transactions. But we see a huge potential, right? And to some extent, some of these banks are also enabled selling mutual fund inside their net banking login. So I'll not take a bank name, but what we did along with BSE is we are given a net bank, the mutual fund tab inside the net banking login. So anyone kind of clicks on it, he or she can pay through their bank accounts, and obviously the distributor code of the bank get hard coded. So in that way, I think there's a huge potential, right? And certain challenges, when we talk to a lot of banks, what we find out is, I think there's a lot of perception from banking channel that the mutual fund will take away the cream of their investor base from the deposits. So I don't think that's going to be it's only a perception. Definitely, it's not. And the other thing is, that they'll have a sales impact. Obviously, the sales number can go down. Training on mutual fund product is cumbersome for people, because we need to spend time to understand. Insurance is something different. I would say insurance you can kind of tell them, boss, if you die, the amount will go to your family, or you can talk about COVID as a health insurance. So insurance is a different product altogether. You can get on board customer quickly, but mutual fund requires a little bit of knowledge to talk about what is liquid, what is when the redemption happens, when they can have the money, what is equity. So it requires, so the training might be a challenges for the banks from a branch channel point of view. The other major challenge is what people have is a non-availability of a core platform which can integrate with their core banking system where they can track the revenue and sales numbers. I think that's been, obviously, mutual fund is not a core banking product, so you can't expect a bank other than, as Mr. Monty told, some bank which have made a huge revenue to have their own platform. So there are some vendors or a platform who we have enabled as a BSE. So banking channels need to just adopt this, automatically those system gets plugged in. I think that was one challenges what we had. And this system also will be able to track them, the sales, the revenue target and everything. So there are some challenges which can be readily available. I think the last year or so, or in a couple of years, in mutual fund industry or the technology platform providers have also found solution for all these problems. So it's not something which is going to have a huge impact, but I would say banking definitely has a huge potential, and with the industry, it's going to be complementing each other. I think from a regulator policymakers point of view, I think there are a few challenges if jointly we can do. And banks, PSU banks really have a bigger say. I think there should be more push from the banking side. One basic thing is why we need to have a separate KYC for a mutual fund when the banking KYC is already there. That's something which is there since before I born. I would say that's running. But somewhere I feel it's only the mutual fund which runs with this and keeps on creating noise. But I think banking channel together can really make a huge difference to see how we can sort it out. So there are some. So I just want to summarize. I don't want to take longer time. There is more to talk. But what I want to talk is, definitely mutual fund can get benefited out of banking channel distributing, and it's really a complementary metrics for banks also to take advantage of this. So that's where I leave my thought. Hopefully, I'm on time, and thanks for the opportunity again.
Thank you, Ganesh. And now let me give a brief background of the next panelist, Mr. K. Ramachandran. Mr. K. Ramachandran, he is the Executive Director of Indian Bank, assumed office on 1st of April 2020, subsequent to the amalgamation of Allahabad Bank into Indian Bank. He has taken charge as the Executive Director of Allahabad Bank in 2018, December 26th. He is a postgraduate in science and postgraduate diploma in computer application. He joined Corporation Bank as probationary officer in May 1985 and had worked in branches, corporate office, and other controlling officers. So he was part of the core team which involved in the design, development, and implementation of the total branch automation internet banking and mobile banking application of Corporation Bank. As Assistant General Manager, Priority Sector, he had implemented the voice-enabled point of transaction, handheld terminals used by business correspondents. Mr. Ramchandran held independent charge of the alternate delivery channels, credit monitoring verticals, and had headed Thane zone of Corporation Bank. On elevation to the General Manager cadre, he was heading the Chennai circle of Corporation Bank from April 2016. He is a techno banker, having lot of rich experience in the banking domain, techno domain person, and he can throw a very good light. And I also want to congratulate. In fact, he has launched recently in the mutual fund. The customers, investors can invest in mutual fund through the Indian Bank mobile banking also. So that facility is enabled in addition to the branch channel. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Now it is your turn, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Rangarajan, for the great introduction. I think we are colleagues. He was working with Indian Bank earlier. So we have a mutual, we complement each other. Okay. So now coming to the topic, now how banks can leverage themselves to increase the penetration of the AMCs. Mr. Mohanty was telling about how the banks can instill trust in the minds of the customers. But primarily, if you just dissect it down, how the trust is coming primarily from the regulations, which are very strict. When you compare the RBI and the SEBI, it's not soft touch regulation. It's a very strict regulation which the banks have to adopt in order to be carrying out the functions which they have been asked to perform. And then the adherence to compliance is another thing where we cannot deviate from some of the standard processes and the procedures which has been there. So the compliance is very strict in nature. And the other one is a risk framework which has been defined, and we ensure that we don't digress from the framework which has been laid down. Now, when we talk of trust, we find that during the last 1 year itself, we have seen the debacle of some banks like the PMC Bank, the Yes Bank, the LVB. It is not just trust alone will carry the weight. It is only how do we make how the employees, because trust is nothing but the confluence of all the compliance of all the employees of that organization together working to ensure that we follow the rules. And this trust is what makes like what Mr. Mohanty was telling, when the manager says something, people tend to listen and people tend to add credence to whatever is being told by the branch head. But when we talk of trust, it is also coming in from the fact that the branch manager has to be trained in that. If at all I have to comply or if I have to follow, I need to be completely aware of the products and the services which I am rendering. And if it's going to be slightly risky, then the branch manager should be in a position to explain what exactly is that. When it comes to investment in banks, we find that there is no principal erosion. Whereas when it comes to an investment in a mutual fund, we run the risk of principal erosion. And then the moment the manager comes and then says that, okay, you invest in this fund. And then after some time, the customer finds that his principal is eroded for whatever reason. It could be extraneous reasons, or it could be because of external factors. But nevertheless, he finds that there has been the breach of trust when it comes to that, because an amount put in the bank, he can always get back the principal, if not the interest to the extent in which he has been asking or bargaining for. But in the current context, if you see, banks have to necessarily look at providing these services because of the large distribution network which the banks enjoy. And it is also imperative that banks look at to put in different asset classes so that the customer is able to derive value, because the amount of disposable income which is available with the customers is also increasing. We find that even in the RBI studies, if you find about 10 years back and all that, the amount of investment or the household savings, which was around 34%, has now dropped to around 28% or 27%, which means that people are trying or willing to experiment in different asset classes, be it gold, be it real estate, be it mutual funds, equity, and so on. But what is more important is that how do we assess the risk appetite of the person and then try to suggest suitable products for him? Because the branch manager, if you find, he is a person who's donning multiple hats. He has to lend, he has to mobilize deposits, he has to sell third-party products, he has to go for recovery, and so on. So does he have enough time in order to explain to the customers what exactly is the need of the customer? And then is he able to gauge the risk appetite of the customer and suggest suitable products? And when it comes to mutual funds, the complexity increases. It's not just a plain vanilla savings bank account. He says, okay, you put it, I will give you a checking facility, and then I'll give you this, that, and so on, a debit card and other features. It's not just a fixed deposit where he says that, okay, I contract you, and then at the end of the term, I give you back the money with the interest at this rate. But here in a mutual fund, I'm not able to promise what I'm going to give. And then I do not know whether the customer can invest in an index fund or an ETF or a hedge fund or a regular fund. And then again, whether it is SIP, SWP, or capital investment. So, and then you have the closed-end funds, the open-ended funds, the NFOs. So are the branch managers adequately knowledgeable in order to know the product, what he is selling, and then whether he is able to understand the goals or the financial goals of the customer to which he is selling that product, and then whether these two match together. If these two match together, we end up in success. And if there is a discord, then we end up in a failure, or it results in a customer grievance or a complaint, which has to be addressed again by this fellow who is sitting there, who is already under severe pressure. So therefore, one is the awareness on the products, and then what amount of training we give it to the branch manager. And I don't for a moment even think that if I am selling as a branch manager, if I am selling mutual fund products or a third-party product, it means that there will be an erosion in my deposit base. It is only that I am creating more and more products which I am selling the customer. Therefore, I create the stickiness of the customer with me, rather than, because if I don't sell the product and if the customer comes to know it from some other source and then he uses that by sending an NACH mandate, automatically my base gets eroded. But if I were to sell, then not only that I earn the trust of the customer, but also I also get a fee-based income out of this sale. And then I create that stickiness of the customer, because that's what we should look at as a bank. Like Mr. Ganesh Ram was telling that the KYC compliance is one of the major factor, because it's like I told that since the regulator is a very strict regulator and there is a periodical inspections happening, and then the KYC compliance is adhered to in letter and spirit. Therefore, when a sale happens for a mutual fund, automatically, if the consent layer is available, automatically the other agency, which it could be a mutual fund or it could be an insurance, can automatically inherit the KYC and the other factors, which is what is more important. But when it comes to the fears of why a manager is not able to sell, is primarily because the principal erosion, the lack of awareness of the product or the feature of that particular product which is selling. And then the other one is the complexity in taxation. You have the short-term capital gains coming in, long-term capital gains coming in, dividend distribution tax coming in, which is not available for him when he is selling a plain vanilla bank product. So this is something which has to be told, the expense ratio which is there. So all these add to the complexity. Over and above that, he is not aware of the pedigree of the fund. Who is the fund manager? What type of investments he's making? What is the pedigree of that fund? Whether he is aware of what returns he's guaranteeing, whether it will be in a position to come. He can look at the past history and say that, okay, this fund has fetched 12%, but whether it's going to fetch him again 12% in the next 5 years is not in his hands. So therefore, if somebody is tied up with the marriage of his daughter and then say that, okay, I'm going to get 12% rather than what the 6% which I'm getting from the bank, and then I promise him, and if that results in an erosion of the principal, then he loses the trust which he has been gaining all along. The risk of not delivering is something which we need to take into account. Now, the other thing, like what we are looking at now, when I was in Allahabad Bank and when I came to Indian Bank, is that the distribution of the product need not be tied to the bank manager himself. can we make this decision making also transferred to the individual himself? Because we have seen that there is a lot of investments happening in the tier 1, tier 2 cities, and how do we penetrate into the tier 3, tier 4 environment, where again we find that there is a lot of disposable income. And this is evident from the fact that if you see the CASA, that is the current and the savings ratio of the south-based banks, it will be about 26%, 27%. But when you look at the east-based banks or the northern banks, the CASA ratio will be of the order of about 40%, 41%, which means that I am able to mobilize low-cost deposits in the north and the east and not in the south, because the awareness is more, and then they are looking at different asset classes. The disposable income is more, and therefore they are able to penetrate better. Whereas when I go to the north and the Indo-Gangetic plain, you find that the penetration becomes lesser, because either the awareness is not there, and I'm not able to convince the customer that, okay, yeah, I'll be in a position to guarantee you this much money on so on. So therefore, what we are looking at is that, can I shift this, or that we call it as a liability shift? Can I do it into the customer himself? And I don't get tied up with a particular fund house. I don't get tied up with a particular AMC. Can I make it more broad-based? This is where we looked at. And because now after the computerization, now we are getting into the digital age. You have the fintechs coming in who are providing that platform, and then all the products are loaded onto the platform and make the customer choose whichever product, whichever mutual fund which he wants to avail. And I'm not tying him only to the branch network. I'm making it available on the internet platform. I'm making it available in the mobile platform as well, which becomes more ubiquitous for the customer, so that he is able to take a decision on the fly wherever he is. And this makes it, because I have a platform, and on the platform, all the products are, all the AMCs are linked. All the products of the AMCs are linked. If you just look at somebody was telling it's about 28,000 crores to 30,000 crores is the amount of investment which is there. But if you look at the number of fund houses, it will be of the order of maybe 32, 35. And if the number of products which are offered by the fund houses, it will run to about thousands. It will be about 2,000, 3,000 products which will be there. Will it be possible, humanly impossible for somebody to understand each of these features and then make a sell to the customer? And can we make this decision making also made available to the customer himself, which is where we looked at providing this on the digital platform through a fintech, so that a customer can log in. What I need is only that I will share the KYC, but I will guarantee the KYC. I will guarantee the fund availability, that is the amount availability, and he will make him give the various choices. And not only the choices, how do we make analysis available to the customer? Data analytics is something which is coming into place. How do I make that analysis to the customer, so that when I'm choosing a product, I give him a wide choice, not only a wide choice, what is the fund which has yielded so much, how much it has yielded over the last 3 years, 5 years, and so on, and what is the outlook of that fund going forward based on the pedigree of that fund manager. Then I find that I'm not tied to one product. I make it multi-product, and then I'm making it available from multiple platforms within the organization itself, which is what we are looking at. But going forward, I think what we need is not only making available the products, but also ensuring that the complaint and the grievance redressal mechanisms are also in place, so that somebody is not happy with because I'm using a third-party service to make available these things. If somebody is not happy with whatever is offered, or if there has been some gap in the service, then I need to have the proper grievance redressal mechanism, so that I'm able to address the problem immediately before it becomes into a major issue. Provide a risk profile to the customer, and then also live track the investment portfolio. These are some of the things which we are looking at in the digital platform, so that banks will also not be burdened, but be in a position to use the distribution network, be in a position to make the fund houses inherit the KYC and the other things based on the consent which is available with the customer. And then make an omni payment mode, because I don't have to tie it up with that. Okay, if I'm coming through the mobile, I can use the NEFT or the RTGS to transfer the money. Or if I'm coming into the branch, I can still use the same facility. Or if I'm coming in through internet banking, I can use the same facility, so that it becomes easier for the customer to track. And also provide him some event-driven triggers. Suppose something, it's not that the customer is so knowledgeable, but whenever an event happens, well, that should trigger an alert for the customer, so that he's able to take a meaningful decision at that point in time. So, and these are some of the thoughts. And of course, if there is something else, I think I have just, Mr. Rangarajan told me that I've got 10 minutes. I think just I've exceeded my 10 minutes. And
Yeah, it is 15 minutes. I mean, another 4 minutes you are having.
other panelists also to
Yeah.
tell. Primarily, if I have to quickly sum up, it is that banks are a great distribution network, no doubt about it. Banks cannot look at only the branches as the distribution network. How do they look at the digital avenues which are made available? And banks should not look at only one fund house. I should make available across, so that I'm able to make it available, make it more broad-based, and also generate the fee-based income, which is the bread and butter for which we are working for. Thank you, and I thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts on this platform. Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Anyway, you reserve for the next session also. It is there for a discussion. Really, as an ex-banker, also I can also concur with whatever you have said. The field level difficulties or field level mindset of the people, and to overcome, as you say, as you have done already, the digitization of the processes, and directly the customer can invest using the alternate delivery channels. Definitely, it is going to help a lot. The bankers, most of the bankers today also, I have seen some ICICI Bank advertisement. So most of the banks are coming out with the digitization, and they are doing it in a seamless manner without depending upon the branch channel. And as you said, the data analytics, using the artificial intelligence and machine learning, definitely whatever the best thing it can prompt. In fact, I am the first user. I have started using it, and I have started receiving messages, the mails from the fund managers, that this will be suitable for you, this will be suitable for you. Like that, it is getting. So in the normal circumstances, in the physical banking environment, which may not come, now it is coming through the alternate delivery channels. Thank you for that. And let me introduce the next speaker, next panelist, Mr. Ajit Narasimhan. Mr. Ajit Narasimhan is the Chief Marketing Officer of Sundaram Mutual. Mr. Ajit has over 17 years of professional experience in leading high-performing business development and product management teams in mutual funds and fintech. He has handled various roles spanning investments, digital business, robo-advisory, and fintech. He joined Sundaram Mutual in 2005 as a business analyst, and then moved to be the head of investment products and marketing, and was elevated into the current role as CMO. He has also worked with Cognizant Technology Solutions and Bank Bazaar as director and category head, savings and investments. At Bank Bazaar, he launched India's first 100% paperless instant mutual fund distribution platform. Mr. Ajit has been instrumental in Sundaram Mutual's digital transformation and the establishment of the brand's Digi retail strategy. During that time, Mr. Ajit has been with Sundaram Mutual. The brand has been strong. The brand has been strong growth and on various digital platforms. Mr. Ajit has a master's in business administration from Great Lakes Institute of Management. He also holds a digital and social media marketing strategy certification from ISB. It is about you, Mr. Ajit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rangarajan, and thank you so much, ICC, for having me part of this panel. A lot has been covered by the earlier panelists, so I'm going to try and see if I can summarize some of the points that's been mentioned already, and a few other points which I've noted down. So, the way I see it, firstly, we must recognize the role that all categories of banks have played over the last 20-25 years in growing, the assets under management itself for this industry. I think what's happened is a lot of focus has been on deepening existing relationships with customers and increasing wallet share from those customers, right? Mr. Mohanty spoke about how it's about 1 to 1.5% in terms of penetration. And we're all aware that mutual funds continue to be a fairly underpenetrated, financial product in our country. However, what's happened is banks have played a significant role in creating wealth, consequently, and a nation of wealth creators as well. That's what we've tried to generate over the last 20, 25 years. But I believe over the next few years, things will transform. We have seen bits and pieces of it already over the last 2 to 3 years with the emergence of fintech, with the emergence of digital banking, a lot that Mr. Ramachandran also has spoken about. And I believe that AMCs also will play a significant role. So before I talk about what banks need to do, I think it's incumbent upon AMCs also to talk about what we are going to do in terms of enabling banks to increase penetration of this product. I think the first thing is what struck me over the last 45 minutes is I think it's important for us to reposition mutual funds primarily as a savings product, right? Mutual fund, there's a tendency for everyone to look at mutual funds only as an equity product, right? There's a tendency for everyone to look at mutual funds as a wealth creation product. Hence, you can always lose money, you can lose your principal, but that's not really the case across all products, right? Mutual funds really is a vehicle to save, and you can either create wealth or you can also save. So there are different asset classes, right? You have gold, you have real estate, you have equity, you have within equity of various, stocks across market capitalization. So I think there's a bit of, education that as asset managers we have to do as well to bankers and customers as well, because there's been tremendous growth in terms of, especially with the government's Jan Dhan initiative itself. The increase in number of bank accounts have seen a tremendous increase over the last 4 to 5 years. So you've got new bank account holders coming in. You've seen, as the economy moves from unorganized to organized, you've seen a lot of people who never ever dreamt of having a bank account now having a bank account. So when these consumers come in, it's very, very important for us to spend a lot of time in actually educating those consumers that mutual funds are not just equity, right? So from a behavioral point of view, I talk about greed and fear always, right? These are two innate traits that individuals always have. So you want more money or you're scared that you lose your money. But at the end of the day, mutual funds are not just wealth creation products. Mutual funds can also be a savings instrument, right? So I think first, as asset managers, we have to find a way to reposition this product itself. It's taken us 20, 25 years already. Since 96, a lot has been covered. But I think as we move into the next 20, 25 years, industry cannot grow by just saying that we are a wealth creation industry. We've got to now transform into a savings industry, and then you'll automatically have products across various risk categories, right? For a low risk investor, you recommend something which is of extreme low risk and potentially capital safety as well, right? And then for a high risk investor, you have very, very aggressive equity funds where you can lose your money, like what Mr. Ramachandran said. So I think that's the first thing that we need to do. The second aspect, as far as the bankers are concerned, we have talked a lot about how trust has played a significant role in growing the distribution strength that we already have as far as banks are concerned. But I think one important aspect that we have not yet covered, and this is something that we did at Sundaram Mutual, was to look at in terms of how are consumers buying mutual funds through banks, right? And there's a temptation for us to kind of paint banks as just an institution, right? And when you look at banks, you have three categories of banks. You have a private bank, you have a PSU bank, and you probably have a handful of MNC banks as well. And from a customer segmentation point of view, these three banks will have very different segment of customers, profile of customers, and they behave differently, right? So it's a little difficult for us to kind of paint all sets of banks with a common template, and we need to recognize that banks will have different profiles of customers as well, right? And I think what's happened over the last 20 years is that the creme de la creme of customers have tasted mutual funds from banks, right? But the mass of customers haven't yet tasted mutual funds for whatever reason. Maybe they have not wanted to, the fear of getting into something they don't understand, whatever reason. But I think what's played a significant role already has been the banker, right? The banker has played a significant role in also selling mutual funds and building the trust quotient, right? So I was talking about the survey that we did, and when we spoke to a set of few customers from banks, we came to know that 90% of those bank customers actually go purely based on the guidance and the recommendation of the banker, right? Of that individual banker. So the banker plays a significant role in communicating the benefits of a mutual fund or on what the mutual fund is all about, and helping the customer create his goals and objectives for the future. But I believe we are at a point in time that that's going to change, right? And the reason why that's going to change is because if you want to now talk about addressing 600 million, 700 million Indians, I'm not very sure if banks are going to start increasing employment, bringing in those many bankers. I'm not very sure if we are equipped to do that, and I don't believe that that's the most optimum way of doing it, right? So I believe that banks will now need to transform into we've already used this word, but at the cost of sounding cliched, fintechs, right? Now, it's not easy. I don't believe, having worked in a fintech, my personal view is that I don't believe every bank can pivot into becoming a fintech very easily. Fintechs, a fintech mentality is a DNA and a culture that's been built. It's very difficult for a brick and mortar bank to tomorrow morning transform into behaving like a fintech. Some banks may choose not to. Some banks will talk about alliances. I think Mr. Ramchandran spoke about a very smart alliance with a fintech, and I was tracking that with the Indian Bank. That's one way of doing it, right? But I think what will be done is the emergence of digital technologies within traditional banks itself, right? So I think one of the first things that that banks can potentially do is to look at an omni-channel focus itself, right? Whether it's the mobile app, whether it's the internet banking, whether it's the ATM machine, whether it's the branch banking, etc. A customer should be able to touch a mutual fund product, right? I think, to me, it's very what's happened today is that the cost of servicing a customer has been so exorbitantly high. A banker will always gravitate towards a customer who's going to give that big ticket, right? It's natural, right? Because if I know the cost of servicing a customer is 1,000 rupees, I'm obviously going to go and service a customer who's going to give me a bigger amount of money. That's how your typical business happens anywhere. But I think over time, what we'll see is that the cost of servicing will come down as digital technology kicks in, as you start establishing various touch points, whether it's the branch network, whether it's your mobile network, whether it's your internet banking network, etc. The cost of servicing will come down. Now, as that happens, the cost of acquisition also should proportionately or disproportionately come down. Now, when the acquisition cost comes down, is when you will start looking at innovation in terms of products itself. So that is where banks will need to now start adopting an approach towards lifetime value creation, lifetime value and solution oriented selling itself, because mutual funds, we must remember, unlike a fixed deposit or an insurance, is perhaps a very, very unique financial product with an after sales element, right? It is not a product which I can just sell overnight and walk away. It's not a debit card or a credit card where I can just sell it and walk away. This is a product where there is an after sales element. A customer needs to be nurtured and handheld for the life of his investment, right? Because whatever product it is, the asset class goes through various levels of fluctuation because of various external elements, right? So it's very important that a bank focuses not just on customer acquisition, also focus on customer retention. That is where lifetime value of a customer comes in. So I think, with a lot of analytics, and I think, again, I want to take on what Mr. Ramachandran talked about in terms of data analytics as well. I think data plays a very, very significant role in terms of helping consumers and the distributor understand which part of the life cycle a customer belongs to, right? Typically, what happens is, as a customer, you don't tend to open multiple bank accounts, right? You have one bank account or maximum two. I think banks are becoming extremely commoditized today. At least an account is becoming commoditized today. The tendency for consumers to let go of a bank account and open another bank account and transition to a new bank account is very limited. So effectively, you have a customer for life as a bank, right? And once you have a customer for life, it's very important to track that customer's life cycle and to sell products according to the life stage of that customer itself. And that is where mutual funds can play a significant role, and mutual funds can actually help banks. And today technology can play that role in terms of identifying which product is most suitable for a customer at that particular life stage. So I think life stage selling becomes a very, very important element as well. The third part which I wanted to talk about is as far as this KYC piece. I think Mr. Ganesh Ram has also spoken about it. I think it's a very, very important part. It's something for policymakers that we need to think about. But having said that, there possibly are very different reasons as to why policymakers haven't yet done it so far. But a bank KYC should be used for a mutual fund KYC itself. I simply don't understand the reason why we need to have another KYC, but we've been talking about for many, many years now. But in case that's what it is, I think banks can, today find ways to open KYCs in less than 30 minutes. I think those models are already there. And once banks now figure out how to move towards customer acquisition and not just deepening wallets of existing customers, and that will proportionally come down as the cost of acquisition goes down, instant KYC should be utilized. And once instant KYCs are open, as and when a customer opens a bank account, he should be able to open a mutual fund account as well, right? This becomes a mutual fund account, and from there on, it's like opening a zero balance folio in any account, and he's mutual fund ready, and then the customer can always open an account elsewhere. The third part, I think the fourth part which I wanted to cover is in terms of product innovation. The product innovation plays a significant role again here for a bank customer, because and I can give you a couple of examples here. Now, banks and AMCs need to figure out if there are products that we can co-create, and I'm sure there are enough opportunities to co-create. For example, instant redemption is one product which the industry created about 2-3 years ago, which I would think hasn't gained as much traction as we think it should have gained by now, right? Customer invests in a liquid fund, and he should be able to take that money out within instantly in 2-3 minutes. There's an IMPS transfer, and I think there are SEBI caps of about 50,000 rupees on 95% of the corpus, whichever is lower, which is already there. Every single bank account customer should be using that product, right? We've talked about why CASA and this don't compete with each other. I think Mr. Mohanty laid a very very clear base for that. But believing in that, instant redemption should be one particular product that AMCs and banks should co-create. The second thing should be in terms of specific products for specific customer segments, which are probably blends of a product itself. Again, I want to tap on what Mr. Ramcharan talked about in terms of multiple AMCs. That's a call that banks need to take, whether you need to onboard all 35 AMCs. My only concern with that model is then you're becoming a marketplace and not really curated list of AMCs. So again, different banks have different models. Both models can coexist, but within that, I think we need to simplify these. And when you simplify it, you actually offer package solutions to customers, right? It could be goal-based solutions or risk-based solutions or something else. Because to expect a banker to understand 2,500 mutual fund schemes, or to expect a customer to know what a mid-cap, small-cap, large-cap, bond, duration, it's very, very difficult, and I don't think it's going to happen. So, based on a need, whether it's a goal or a risk-based approach, we should be able to co-create products with solutions that we're able to expose through an open API or a network to banks for them to distribute to their customers. So I think, to summarize, what I had was, first point is in terms of, technology. I think it's very important for banks to now start operating like fintechs, but not wanting to become fintechs, because I don't think that's possible. The second thing should be in terms of innovation. The third thing should be is in terms of common KYC. I think is very important. And the final point, which I mentioned right at the top, is in terms of an acquisition mindset versus a deepening wallet share, because the deepening wallet share game is what banks have been focusing on till now for all the right reasons. But I think now we need to start moving towards broad basing itself. And the only way we can broad base is through the enhancement of digital infrastructure. That's perhaps the most cost effective way. And we've seen that. So branch network is not necessarily the only way here. We have seen some of the use cases that payment banks have delivered over the last few years. So I believe that a lot of banks today will be able to benefit from that as well.
Yes, with that you are concluding your first session.
Yes, Mr. Rangarajan. I thought I'll keep it
Yeah.
short, and because a lot has been covered.
Thank you, Ajit. Thank you, Ajit. Anyway, you can reserve the rest of the points for your next session. In fact, we do agree that the banks should be aggressive in guiding the customers for mutual fund investments. In fact, the present session, in fact, bank has started the unlocking the distribution potential for the AMCs. That is why I have mentioned also, even in the digital front, bank has customer self-service itself in the mobile banking. Many banks, even the public sector bank, even Indian Bank has launched recently. So the with the support of fintech, naturally, because completely it is not possible for the bankers alone to do it. So with the support of the fintech, banks are able to do provide the opportunity for the customers to invest in mutual fund and thereby provide the information dissemination to the customers also. So it is a mutually win-win situation. In fact, the present panel discussion of the AMCs and the banker is mainly for the purpose of creating a congenial atmosphere wherein both how the final panel, the discussion, the conclusion should be how they can work together for a win-win situation. That is the aim. That is why we have brought all the industry specialists together. And finally, as an before concluding the first session, as an ex-banker and a member of the ICC, I would like to add some more points also before the second level discussions. Okay, right. In fact, it was about to be addressed in the first initial remark itself, but because of my connectivity problem, I couldn't do it. Okay, right. See, over the past few decades, the role of mutual funds as a dependable source of investment has grown significantly. The advantage of investing in a bucket of securities without any anxiety about their individual performance offers a unique advantage to the mutual funds over other investment choices. Mutual funds play a vital role as financial intermediary in mobilizing the resources from the investors and distributing them to the needy sectors of the economy, thus contributing to the economic growth of stability. This is a major important thing. It is contributing to the economic growth and stability because big companies can have direct equity shares. The subscription will happen. Mutual fund is helping the small companies also. The funds collected from the investors are handled very carefully and actually actively by the mutual fund managers by purchase of assets for investors, ensuring growth of their investment and steady income, thus contributing the economic growth and stability. Because ultimately, it is not only the investors, it is the economy of the country is also to be taken into consideration. In the last 15 years, mutual funds have shifted towards a phase of consolidation and cohesive growth. Merger of fund houses and increasing awareness among investors have contributed to the growth of mutual fund in India. However, the current awareness about the advantage of investing in mutual fund is limited to the middle income and the higher income households concentrated in the cities. The rural market remains as yet comparatively untapped because both the banks as well as the fund managers, they are focusing on the city. So there is a great opportunity here for fund managers and commercial banks, which can be mutually beneficial. Mutual fund industry needs to take into account the rural scenario, considering the healthy growth in agriculture even during this pandemic, and work towards creating awareness and substantial economic growth in that sector as well. Commercial banks with their vast network of branches and clientele reach can play a major role and act as a big gateway for distribution of the mutual fund products because directly you will not be able to reach the rural masses. But the commercial banks have deep penetration in the rural and semi-urban markets. With rapidly growing fintech and trained and skilled human resources, commercial banks and mutual funds can create big opportunities for investors in terms of growth of wealth in a steady manner with minimum risk. Banks may have concern about the loss of deposit and customers. Only a portion of the savings in the form of excess liquidity will go to the investment in mutual fund, and this will also come back to the banking channel in the form of float funds of mutual fund or funds of corporates. So there is no fear that the banks should not have any fear because from one packet it is coming to the other packet. Anyway, ultimately it has to lie in the banking industry only. The income by way of commission and service charges will shore up the bottom line by way of non-interest income. The banks will also earn enormous goodwill of the customers by helping them in increasing their income and investment growth. That is a major important thing. The psychological advantage is that bankers will be in a position to gain. See, I am taking care. I am taking care of the customers. I'm taking the welfare. I'm taking care of the welfare of the customers. Like that, the people will think and they will add up to the brand value of the bank as well. However, this requires a well-trained and skilled manpower in the form of human resources. Utilizing the Storewell client data available with the bank and by keeping a constant tab on the functioning of the various industries and investment opportunities and using fintech tools, the investment counselors of the banks should provide the necessary input to the investors and provide them proper guidance for investment in mutual fund. That is what we are doing. We are having a lot of wealth managers in the banking sector. So we are guiding the people how to do it. While doing so, the investment counselors should also keep in mind the surplus available with the investor, his investment goals, risk appetite, etc. The banks are putting their reputation on risk, and hence the need to select the right mutual fund product for the right investor is a must. Indian Bank has recently provided facility in their mobile banking for investment in mutual fund in addition to the traditional branch channel. What mutual fund have to do? Mutual fund should take care of selection of the portfolio, types of fund to suit the different type of investors, highly skilled fund managers to manage investment portfolio with a view to ensure growth of investment and optimum returns to the investors with minimum risk. Information dissemination and disclosure regarding portfolio at a very frequent interval. Investor education is also to be done. Integrity of fund managers and corporate ethics is the most essential part of it. Compliance to the regulatory guidelines and corporate governance is also a must. Thanks to SEBI, the SEBI Mutual Fund Regulation 1996 is a Bible under which mutual funds are regulated. There are other regulators as well as namely the Ministry of Finance, RBI, Association of Mutual Funds of India, stock exchanges, etc. A mutual fund scheme can be launched only when SEBI is satisfied with the parameters such as integrity of the AMC, infrastructure, net worth, as specified in the regulation, etc. So registration is accorded only after satisfying the above, thus minimizing the risk of fraud or misuse of fund. The role of SEBI is to ensure strict compliance to the regulatory guidelines by the mutual fund or AMC. Bring in or modify the regulation to ensure investor protection. Provide investor education through electronic and print media. Monitor the performance of mutual fund and AMC and take suitable measures. Stock exchanges also have their own set of regulations for mutual funds and depository participants. Mr. Ganesh Ram of BSc can vouch it. Mutual fund has to comply with the listing obligations and disclosure rules as given in the SEBI guidelines. Mutual fund investments have the potential to become an integral part of our economy, provide fund houses, mutual fund managers, investors, and all other stakeholders work in harmony. That is the most important thing towards creating a stable and efficient market. The fallout from COVID-19 continues to challenge and disrupt economies around the world. But the banking and capital market sectors can help steady the ship. Though new innovative liquidity plays, they can support small and medium enterprises, struggling industries, and emerging markets to ensure that all sections of the global economy emerge successfully on the other side of this crisis. So since the beginning of the decade, when the Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, permitted trading of mutual funds units on recognized stock exchanges, there has been a dramatic increase in the number of potential points of sale for mutual funds. The sales also increased somewhat in the past 5 years. However, the desired level of actual sales still remains in a shadow, and thanks to COVID, that has gone down significantly. To fill this void, the conventional channel can act as a link between investors and mutual fund, that is the banking industry. Erstwhile, the banks have played a limited role in the distribution of mutual fund. However, banks have a huge advantage in the BFSI space in terms of the trust of their customers. This can be used to attract the investors of the AMCs. Many banks do offer mutual fund to their customers, but this is done in a limited way and is confined to few branches. So the need of the hour is to increase the reach and make distribution of AMCs available across the bank branches. The private sector banks have been selling mutual funds successfully for several years now. There are 32,083 private sector bank branches in India, whereas public sector undertaking branches are above 88,000. Hence, roping in the public sector banks to sell mutual funds could be a win-win situation for all parties involved. Distribution and reaching out to the new investors are the biggest challenges facing the Indian mutual fund industry. With public sector banks stepping in as intermediaries, mutual funds will be able to cover the last mile of the investor. For investors, it will be an easy and accessible point of purchase for what is arguably the simplest, cheapest, and the most regulated way to create wealth. So this will benefit from informed decisions with the local banks helping them understand the products and concepts. This will provide new options for channeling the savings of a large number of investors. For banks, this will be an additional source of income and another service to help them move up the value chain. However, in order to achieve this, the need of the hour would be the training to the staff to assist in the distribution of funds. The Gen Y investors desire more proximity with asset managers, a better ability to compare their investment with the peer groups, and to invest in a socially responsible way. Being digitally savvy, this generation are also willing to use online investment platforms. Digital banking services can be a solution to the same. Successful asset management companies can adopt product management and marketing strategies to the mentality of this new generation of investors using digital banking services to make use of a wide set of available data sources. The enhanced digital banking platforms will stimulate direct to consumer distribution channels in both retail and institutional investor segments. Also, with the advent of open banking, AMCs should rather be thinking of taking advantage of this opportunity sooner rather than later. Open banking implies that more customer data is available to support organizational processes and decision making. Open banking can enhance distribution of enabling innovative products that attract and engage a wider customer base. Using the additional information available via open banking, asset and wealth managers could direct their clients to appropriate products that may be outside of their current product range. So with these, my views, I would like to initiate the second level of discussions where we can concur with the earlier speakers or we can discuss also on the whatever the points that they have discussed during the deliberations. Now let me invite Mr. Mohanty to start the second level discussions. It's 10 minutes for each.
Thank you, Mr. Rangarajan.
Yeah.
So I fully agree with what Mr. Ramachandran told from banker's perspective, what Mr. Ganesh Ram told from a technology partner perspective, and wholeheartedly agree with Ajit that the angle that he has given on technology and on bringing the non-equity products into the product range and product innovation and life cycle benefit from the investor. So to start with, what are the growth factors that can come in from this combination of mutual fund and bankers? Is first of all, the investor should not be considered as a customer ID. She is a human being, and his whole uh, life and need and everything need to be monitored, maybe from data, maybe from personal interaction, the trust, and everything need to be done. So we're talking about technology. Technology definitely is the panacea, but technology alone would not serve. I will tell two examples. One is when we talk about do it yourself and make it available in an app. Okay, that app need to be dynamically improving app. It has to be kept in the benchmark with what is the new generation JID wanted to be deal with, and the convenience and the security and IT and everything. In addition to that, this do it yourself is just the transaction clicking. But behind that, a huge burden of decide it yourself is also required. And for that deciding, since this is a non-tangible product and a non-convenient product, non-convenient in the sense banking is a convenience product, ATM card is a convenient product, but in the 24-hour time, you get up in the morning, you feel the need of a coffee, a tea, you need of newspaper, breakfast, your house and everything, a car to drop your child at the school, but you don't feel the need of SIP in the 24 hours. आपको भूख लगेगा, प्यास लगेगा, SIP नहीं लगेगा. So for that, you need somebody to trigger that convincing, that need generation and cajoling. And some amount of personal help is required. Of course, we can't create one-to-one relationship for so many RMs, for so many investors, but you can create a virtual RM which will dummy, which will create similar behavior of a personified behavior. So you can need not have a branch also, you can have a BC, you can have an app. Through that you can transact and multiply your acquisition of customers. And keep in mind that this is a non-tangible product, and hence a lot of things. When you talk about IT and fintech look like banks, in future a typical bank will look like a giant fintech company with a license to give loans. And in that case, you will have to compete with the big ones, the Amazons of the world and Facebooks of the world, Google of the world. And for that, amount of investment and knowledge and insight that need to be done. In a typical banking, when you see what are the core activities, saving CASA, is a cash and check facility, is a locker, is savings bank, and all these things. Or in addition to that, remittance, payment gateway, wallet, bill payments, or even other fintech related company. All things now fintechs are doing. Remittance, payment gateway, wallets, and credit cards. So the core thing that is the loan facility and giving a credit appraisal and all. In addition to that, when you do all, you have to compete with the real giants of the world. For that, the industry need to evolve, change, transform, and then only they can actually stand. Otherwise, people will think that now that is a cashless world, digitalization already happened, DMart has already happened. I don't need a locker, I don't need an ATM, I don't need cash, don't need check. So why the bank? Even my salary account can be credited to a liquid fund account. I don't need a bank account. Everything I can do from my AMC. Then that need to be also kept in mind, that core need of a bank need to be fulfilled. And while doing that, customer acquisition can be done. In fact, I would go step ahead, that reverse attraction to banking business can happen by acquiring investment customers. You acquire and somebody who attracts somebody for investment advice, and then make him a bank account holder, and both way you can gain. So quickly summarizing, technology, transparency is required, but you need to tell in very clearly, this product is an AMC product and not a bank's product. There are banks who, because of similar sounding names of the AMCs and the banks, people take the confusion to their advantage by telling this is a banking product. People get misled by that. That transparency has to be there. Then second thing is what sir was talking, Ramachandran sir and Rangarajan, is that teaching or awareness creation among the investors in advance before they brought into an investment platform. Trust building, piece by piece, trust need to be built. And also places where there are no branch of the bank can be covered by your BCs. Geography is dead, immaterial. You can do that, and view in totality, and use artificial intelligence to predict the customer's need. And I fully agree that your life cycle customer's value can be harnessed by giving him so many benefits, not just one. And if there is after sales service, there is after sales income also. In fact, in mutual fund product, no other product can give you a trail commission on an increased value. What valuation stock market or fund managers adds value, on that also you get a trail commission year after year, year after year, that no other product can give. And hence there is a chance of both segment joining hand and benefiting both. I stay at here, and I will, if there is a question, I will answer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mohanty. Now it is a turn for Mr. Ganesh Ram.
Right, sir. I think, very great discussions and a lot of learnings for me. But few things I want to take. I will not take longer time of 10 minutes. But, I think the bank and the people working in bank, be it going to be head office or branch, should first get convinced how mutual fund can create wealth. End of the day, the goal for us is to have a protective investment and creating wealth for the investor. That doesn't change. Okay, so we're not here to kind of exorbitantly create wealth. We want to create wealth for people. So take my example. I came into mutual fund industry in 1999. Okay, so way back, I started with SBI and UTI. I did for tax savings basically. That time I never know I'll be part of the mutual fund industry. So we are not talking from an investor point of view. What we need to first, the bank need to get convinced. Only a branch manager, even the trust is there, branding is there, which are all ingredients, basic. But additionally, he need to start believing that mutual fund product is good for my customers to create more stickiness. And today the mutual fund industry has crossed 30 lakh crores. So it has taken a huge stride over the last few years. And today, if you don't attract that customer for doing mutual fund, he's going to do with another fintech company anywhere. So the fintech companies as apps and all getting mushroomed more. Okay, that's one thing you want to say. Second is data analytics is good. We do have today, one of the, as Mr. Monty talked about, the DIY, and the DIY is only around 8 to 10% today. I'm talking about the retail, leaving the ultra and high net worth and the institutional. That also grown significantly, double, only because a lot of data and analysis are available in Google today. So if you go and put which mutual fund is good for me, there is hundreds of data and analysis is there. Okay, that anyone can give. So just to address Mr. Ramchandran's, that we can give, but how to kind of read that, how to interpret that, how to take a decision when I want to enter the market and I want to exit the market is something advisor can do. Okay, so that's where I think DIY might not be a successful model across the globe and particularly in India. Okay, so data analytics analysis, very detailed is available, but how to kind of perceive is something which we need to understand. The other thing I was telling, I attended one event of Trichy mutual fund investment. So there was one investor awareness program we had. So one investor came and told us, sir, whatever you tell me, I will not get convinced. I will put my money in bank deposit only. So why I need to put in mutual fund? I feel that's more safer in bank deposit. I said, sir, obviously you can do. So no one is going to stop you. But what you can do is you can actually, once you put into a bank deposit, you can actually go every week to the bank manager and say, boss, is my money safe? Instantly, that's the time that PMC bank, Yes Bank moratorium, everything happened. So I told him, no, that you can do, right? But as and I told him, mutual fund product is so regulated. In fact, one of the most regulated product, I will say. You can get your NAV, your portfolio on a real-time basis in an app, or you can get SMS or email also. So I think customer also, I think bank should also communicate that was, and contrary to other plain vanilla banking or other products, I think mutual fund is more regulated and the data is available. Okay. The other thing is when we talk about capital erosion and all, I do understand. Okay, there are few mistakes that have happened, but the industry has not just become 30,000 lakh crores over the period of time, right? We always, if I'm a distributor or if I want to convince someone, I think the better way to start with liquid funds, and particularly when you are tapping your banking customers, the better safe way is to kind of put probably an ultra short-term liquid fund, and any gain or dividend comes from there can be, so we call it as STP, standard transfer plan, can be moved into equity. In that way, I think your capital will be there, it will not get eroded, and you also start creating a equity wealth. So for example, as a customer, I do have a FD, I have a RD, I have insurance, but starting 1999, I still have my SIP running in UTI market share, master share, and also an SBI tax. Okay. So I think, these are the few things I would say. I do agree there are some challenges we have. Obviously it's not an apple-to-apple comparison between banking product or any other insurance versus mutual fund. It's slightly complex, but it's not something which can't understand. As an industry, we can jointly do to create how we can create awareness to the investors or to the banking personnel. Fintech is anyway available, right? So how we can kind of plug in fintech to see how we can give a meaningful real-time data analytics to investors. Thereby, we can kind of minimize the risk. The risk is obviously there in every product, but how we can minimize is something we can work on. So what I want to summarize is definitely an investor, a banking, and AMC, and obviously, the policy maker is kind of around us to jointly kind of focus on it. I would say, we've been doing individually, but I think these kind of forums and these kind of great meetings with people together can create some kind of framework And with that framework, I think everyone is going to have a win-win situation. That's where I'll stop. Thanks. Rangarajan sir, I'm done.
Rangarajan sir, you're muted maybe.
Sir, I'm in mute. Thank you, Mr. Ganesh. I now request Mr. Ramcharan to come for the second session.
Yeah, thank you. I think I've got about 8 or 10 points. I'll just quickly summarize that. First is that no, we need to recognize that the switch to technology cannot be stopped. It's just that it will happen. Because nowadays, nobody goes to the railway station to book tickets. Nowadays, nobody goes to the provision stores. They use the grofers or the apps. The Swiggies have taken over. It is just that we have to have that switch to technology, which we cannot stop. And then the new generation is not going to walk into a physical outlet. They are just looking at the internet screens. Because if you ask in the olden days, if somebody wants to take a housing loan, they will walk into a bank, find out what is the interest rate, what is the maximum amount and all that. Now I don't see anybody coming into a bank, particularly the 20s, 30s and the 40s. They don't walk into a bank at all. They just look into so many websites. It could be the Policy Bazaar, the Bank Bazaar, so many things are there, which quickly summarizes what are the product features, what is the rate of interest offered and all that. So our intention to move towards technology is something which cannot be stopped. So therefore, how do we transition this? That has to be thought of. And first of all, when it comes to mutual funds, primarily I will just address the problem of how do I compare a bank product and a mutual fund product is the accessibility. How easy I can access that product, whether I can quickly take into a mutual fund product or whether I can open a fixed deposit quickly, which is what is the difference which it comes. The second one is the first one is accessibility. The second one is the liquidity. How quickly I can take back my money in case of an emergency or a need is what is the second one which will come into play. And the third one is the paperwork which is involved in that. If we can address these three things, then I think most of them will, and then of course, the awareness. Like I always feel that there must be a simplification of some of these things so that customers are aware that, okay, I'm taking a risk in this, I'm taking a zero risk in this, therefore they can quickly choose. Now we are also seeing I think if people who have seen the India Stack platform and all that, no, you will find that there are a lot of things which are happening, which makes it seamless to transfer information across organizations. You have come up, I think most of you must be aware of the CKYCR. That is a centralized KYC registry is coming up in place. So therefore, once I register myself and then I get a number allotted to me, I can share that number and with my consent, anybody can access that and then find out whether my KYC is okay or not okay and then take a call on that. So slowly it will get evolved into a facility where any of the industry players, which it could be the financial industry or it could be the service industry, with the consent of the users can access that information. Therefore, that is one way where we can make it more seamless and quick as well. The other one is the exclusivity which we need to bring in, like Mr. Ajit also was telling that about. We have the HNI customers. How do I tune products to the HNI customers? The mutual funds itself, no, there are various ways where they don't mind a temporary loss, because people, when they come into the mutual fund market and they do a live tracking of the products, immediately get a tremor saying that, okay, today my value has fallen, tomorrow it has gone up, and then there is an elation and a dejection happening in their minds, which a HNI individual will not look at. He will say that, okay, I will wait for about a 3-year time frame, 5-year time frame, and then see whether there is a wealth creation happening in the product which I have chosen. And if at the end of 5 years, if I have tied up myself because of the loyalty to that particular unit, and then I find that the wealth creation is not happening, then he gets into a shock, and he has spent a considerable amount of time before he realizes that the decision what he took was wrong, which is one thing which we need to make it more simpler. And then the guidance which is made available should be online, so that we, like Mr. Rangarajan also was telling, no, that we are trying to provide on the app itself that what is the type of guidance depending on the current market situation, because it's not a static environment we are living in. It's a highly dynamic environment, and the forces are not localized. The forces are global. Anything happening in any part of the world can create a shock here. So therefore, how do we provide that sort of guidance or the comfort to the customers is something which we need to distinguish. Customer differentiation, I told, and then the customers also should be known or should be made aware to look at what is a shock and what is a tremor, or what is a shake and what is a tremor, so that they are also more, they take meaningful decisions rather than impulsive decisions going forward when it comes to the mutual fund industry. And ultimately, we have the, all of you say that it's a regulated thing, but then all the TV commercials carry, no, mutual fund investments are subject to market risk, which again creates one little tingle in the minds of the customers. No, okay, when I'm, and market risk, credit risk, interest risk, all these things are not, it's all jargons which the common man doesn't understand. He says, what is market risk? Where I've lost money is something which is a market risk, but he doesn't understand that. So how do we simplify the product and make it available? I think that would go forward in selling this in a more better way. And the banks, of course, definitely would partner, because banks are primarily financial institutions. I don't look at only fixed deposit. I look at a wide range of product, and how do I sell these wide range of products with minimal risk to me, minimal effort from my side, and maximum revenue from that. This is what we, how do I maximize my revenue with minimal work is what we look at. And that's where we rely on technology so that we are able to take advantage of that. I think I will end my this thing here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Mr. Ajit.
Sure. Thank you, Mr.
For a
Rangarajan.
second level discussion or valuation, whatever you want.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Rangarajan. So, so my closing comments will be in two parts, right? One is, I think the way I look at the future of banking, and I completely agree with Mr. Ramachandran. For me to summarize the future of banking, it's in the digital world. I don't think if you go down, different segment of customers, if you look at the millennials or the Gen Zs, I don't see people going back to the bank branches at all. I know people who are in their 20s today have never visited a bank branch. I know people in their 30s who've never visited a bank branch, not because they don't bank. Of course they bank. They have very deep banking relationships, but all the relationships are digitally driven, right? So I think especially in a post-COVID world, something that could have taken 5 to 6 years for it to change has probably got crunched in 9 months' time, thanks to COVID. Unfortunately. So I think the clear direction post-COVID is going to be that banking will be digital, and consequently products like mutual funds distribution through banks will also need to be looked at under a digital lens, right? And that's where for me the focus on how do you build relationships with your end customer through a digital platform is extremely important, because the fintechs continue to build, relationships which are very virtual, right? The fintechs continue to build a very presence-less, touch-free relationships with the customer, right? So today, for example, if I have a bank account with a payment bank today, I really don't know anything about that bank account, right? I don't know anything about that bank branch or the institution, right? It's completely what I see on the app. But I think that's the USP that a traditional bank will continue to have as it switches on, like what Mr. Ramachandran talked about, as it pivots into a digital world. The USP of having a relationship with a customer is the USP that the branch, the bank business, the traditional bank business should continue to retain as it moves into the new world, right? And that relationship becomes very important in a product like a mutual fund. That's the first part. The second part is in terms of the needs of the customer. I think AMCs have a significant role, and the genesis of what we're trying to discuss today. Why are we wanting to deepen the relationship or deepen the penetration of mutual funds? The fundamental reason to me is ultimately that we want India to be a safer nation, right? We want Indians to have a safety net. As a society, we have transformed over the last 10 years. right? Our parents and our grandparents and our great grandparents had a PF and had your GPFs and your post office funds and your pensions. This generation just doesn't have a pension, right? Retirement age is not going to be 60 any longer for this generation. People are going to lose their jobs in their 50s, if not 40s, right? So ultimately, Indians need to have a safety net, right? And I don't think we are doing enough in terms of talking about the dangers of not having a safety net, right? We just don't talk enough about it. And I think as an AMC as well, when we talk about the mutual funds I have campaigns, I think all our campaigns are towards why mutual funds are good, but our campaigns should now start talking about, you don't have a safety net for yourself, and one of the ways to build a safety net is by saving in mutual funds or by investing in mutual funds, right? I think that's got to be the core message that we communicate, banks communicate to customers. Is, see, you take for example, the US has a 401k. We don't have one. I know the PFRD is trying to create an NPS, but NPS is a very poorly penetrated product. I hope it gains traction. I hope it gets higher penetration. But from an accessibility point of view, from a transparency point of view, from a regulatory point of view, from a liquidity point of view, mutual funds can offer all those benefits, right? So I think ultimately we need to we need to drive that message to the end consumer, to the end bank account holder, that hey, listen, you don't have a safety net for yourself, right? And especially the Gen Z and the millennials, because I know for a fact India is staring at an extremely disastrous, lack of social net scenario 20 years from now. When all this working population who is 35, 40 years old, 15 years down the line, will not have enough money for the next 25 years of their retired life, right? That is a situation that Indians are going to face, right? And we cannot depend on the government, because there's no need for the government to do anything about it. They have other things to worry about. So each of us need to fend for ourselves. And the only way that you will create a safety net is by building products like mutual funds, and the banks will provide that for you. So I think that communication needs to go out. And to me, digital plus this need element gets communicated, I think, we will see a disproportionate increase in penetration. And banks will play a critical role here. Yeah, that's, I think I've summarized my points, Mr. Nagarajan.
Thank you, Mr. Ajit.
Happy to take Q&As.
Thank you for the valuable discussions, and thank you all the brainstorming by the panel. And to sum up the discussion points, all the stakeholders, AMCs, banks, all SEBI, everybody should work together for a win-win situation, and while and ensure investors' earning is increased and investment is protected. More technology platforms should be used by the banks and the AMCs so that seamless experience will be available for the investors. The AMC should ensure strict compliance of regulatory guidelines. Regulators also should monitor the compliance so that the investors' interest is protected. As Mr. Ramchandran told, everywhere it is subject to risk. That is only a certain fact. So we have to strict the compliance is done. Now it is the time for the question and answer session. Before going for the question and answer session, I have one question. What is the action plan? In my deliberation also, I have mentioned about the untapped potential in the rural and semi-urban market. So what is the action plan of the AMCs for reaching out to the untapped and the rural and semi-urban market? Yes, Mr. Ajit.
Sure, I think that's a very important question. So, again, this is, there's been a genesis to this, Mr. Rangarajan. We introduced this concept of B30, which is beyond 30 cities, as a focused, a focus area for all of us as AMCs. We continue to do a lot of investor education campaigns. We continue to spend a lot of time and energy and resources on penetrating deeper relationships within the beyond 30 cities, which is largely, if you ask me, rural and semi-rural kind of markets. But I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, right? And the way I see that happening is, again, through the bank network and the fintech networks. To give you an example today, some of the digital, applications that we get today, 65% of the digital customers come from beyond 30 locations today, right? So mutual funds, by assets under management, by quantum of money, is in the top 15. But in terms of number of new customers, new applications that we get, 60 to 65% of new digital customers that we get are from beyond 30 locations, right? So which means The customer is ready to transact digitally today. We are just not there, right? We are not able to address those customers. The customer has moved digital. The rural customer has already moved digital through his geo phones and all of that. We are not doing enough to him, right? So I think the focus for us going forward, apart from doing the investor education campaigns, etc., will be to actually find ways to directly communicate to these rural markets, and that's going to be a key focus area. And as we start simplifying products, right? So one of the things that Sundaram Mutual as an AMC is doing here is for us to, and I think Mr. Ganeshram touched upon this, is about the first product should be a liquid fund, is about taking a low risk product. I can't officially, the regulator doesn't allow me to call it safety for obvious reasons, right? All the market risk, interest rate risk, and all of those parts are built in. But relatively low risk products, right, is for me to bring those customers in. So a lot of my new customers who come from rural markets today come into reasonably low risk funds. We don't go and sell them those mid caps and those small cap funds, because that's not the kind of customer experience that we want to deliver, right? Can we bring them into a liquid fund? Can we bring them into a hybrid fund? Can we bring them into some of those blended products? I think that's what we're trying to focus on. And I think I must compliment SEBI to actually open up those antennas for us a few years ago by bringing in this focus on B30. And a lot of our new customers come from those locations today.
Mr. Mohanty, what is your action point on this same question?
Yes.
You are from a public.
Very good. Thank you. I'll also narrate one experience of UTI, because people are. So, there is a bank in Ahmedabad, SEBA Bank, Self-Employed Women's Association Bank. So, quite some time back, 2006, we started promoting mutual fund as a product for retirement purpose building to these women, vendors and deli workers, head loaders, vegetable vendors, agarbatti rollers, varieties of professions, small people, and who contributed 50 rupees per month type of thing. And we have to get some regulatory approval for going to them, and without PAN and all. And to starting that, we call it a micro pension, because your question was what we are doing to penetration even beyond these places, beyond the captive investors.
Like here, one small point I want to add. Even during this Ajit's presentation, he said that PFRD and other things he has quoted. The APY is a successful product, pension product, which has been launched by the PFRDA, and that is hitting the rural areas.
Yeah, very
In fact, Indian Bank is a pioneer, and Indian Bank has got the awards for mobilizing maximum API customers from the rural and the semi-urban market.
Yeah. So let me complete.
So there is a potential is available, but the mutual funds, why they are not that much penetrative in the rural and the semi-urban market.
Yeah. So one is the thinking of competition. We think bank as our competitor, bank thinking we are their competition. Actually, let me tell you, you just take the example of say Bisleri water bottle. Bisleri does not consider Aquafina as their competition. The municipality tap water is their competition. The Citibank credit card doesn't consider ICICI Bank credit card as their competition. The cash in pocket is their competition. So if you consider that, the amount of people who are non-investors, unaware, so the action point starts with reach, that is technology, and awareness. That's what mutual funds, EA type of campaign, and the IAP programs that the whole people are doing, and UTI does Swatantra in local language. So lot of awareness creation and the need generation has to be done in people's mind, which bank being available locally, they will knock at the door of the bank, or bank will knock at the through BC or through technology or through app for easy acquiring of customer, even at a small ticket, and then they can grow. And as Ajit told perfectly that starting with a liquid fund or a balance product, and that you can turn index product, you can start, and then they'll slowly elevate or mature into a bigger and a risky investor. So if you only focus on your captive investor set, then you will tend to go to person who is having 10 lakh deposits and all. And I jocularly I tell once to the banker, so what grows in captivity is can grow at the speed at which our tiger population growing. Or if you are actually growing faster than that, then you are either a chicken or a goat. You will be consumed at the end. So nothing grows in captivity. You have to go beyond the captive to actually do the penetration and grow faster. And that device in the hand, and controlled by a robust technology behind and the artificial intelligence, a lot of things can happen. Joining hand, we are not your competitor, you are not our competitor. There are huge market lying or waiting to come to on board and benefit out of this. Thank you.
Thank you. One more small question to Mr. Mohanty.
Yeah.
See, the insurance partnership is also with all the bankers.
Yeah.
And this is growing leaps and bounds because of the marketing support given by the insurance companies. What is the level of marketing support the asset management companies are giving to the bankers so that they will also get encouraged, not only the physical, not only the financial support or come by way of commission and other things, but by way of human support, because the knowledge dissemination should happen because most of the field level functionaries may not have that much knowledge about the mutual fund investments. So your people, if they accompany the branch managers and if they just go and sit with the branch managers and analyze, because that is what happening in the insurance partnership. So in mutual fund, what the AMCs are giving the support, knowledge support to the manual support to the human resource support to the bankers.
Yeah. So two things I will tell. One is a pure term product is actually non-competing product, and in fact should have, everybody should have in addition to having bank deposit and mutual fund. So that is easy to sell. But what happens, the regulatory arbitrage, that what a mutual fund can do and what an insurance provider can do, there are differences. Okay, so a lot of things, I cannot give you a per application incentive even. I cannot take you for a training, a banker for a training to teach them for this thing. A lot of restrictions are there by RBI and by SEBI both. But still, what I like to tell, what help we can give is number one, some speaker was talking about that there are differentiation in this product and people don't understand that market can go down, go up, and a lot of complexities of this product and need to be curated. So one value addition when you are doing a product curation and choosing the product, that time your internal team will do, we can help. And second, lot of literature and simplification of the concepts and which is available, the content in the sub file or in the technology led platform, that mutual fund will be available, can make it in a large number to make things be clear beforehand. Number one. In manpower is also other than that, what we call normally, there is something called, Ajit will explain better, is TER concept. Now, how much can we spend on selling and marketing? There is a cap and a standardization, and that definitions and subject to SEBI audit and all happens. So within that, the overall cap of X, I can give it in providing manpower, I can give it in this, all will be clubbed together to know the standardized cap is achieved or not. And in addition to that, normally what happens, initially bankers were not giving adequate time to understand the product, so they need somebody's help. So we call it feet on street. We provide a person who will stand inside the bank, and actually when you point out a customer, we'll explain them, our guy will explain them, and then try to fill up the form and all these things. Lot of this can be digitized, lot of things, and Ajit also pointed out that. So one is a communication, second is an explanation, third is a comparison, third is retrieving the right information at right time and showing them, creating the interest and purchasing this. I need not be in the bank. Our technology team can actually be after him in a soft nudging manner to get him show interest in that product. And when he actually say yes, because that initial lead has been come from your bank, we'll see to it that your bank's product of preference is honored and he is onboarded according to your choices. That one thing we can give. Information we can give, content we can give. We can, what else we can give is maybe after he is onboarded, periodically engaging him and taking him in to stay in course, that we can help him. And subject to overall limitations and this thing, now a lot of other things which were doing 2 years back will not be able to do. There is a restrictions and stand that you can perceive this as less than what insurance people are giving, but that's it. That's the hard reality which we have to stand with.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Final question to Mr. Ramchandran. Sir, you just give me some 3 points. What is the support you require, 1, 2, 3, from AMCs so that your customers can get benefited and bank also will be comfortable in respect of the mutual fund business.
It's, when we talk of untapped potential and all that, no, see,
Yes, sir.
bank branches, more than about 80,000 branches are there. And in every nook and corner, but if you crisscross now, within 5 kilometers, you will hit a bank branch. It could be a cooperative bank, it could be something. But still, why the bank went for the business correspondents? Still, you find that there is a last mile which is not reached. And therefore, the business correspondents came who are expanding the services. It's an extended arm of the branch which is going out there. Similarly, if at all the mutual fund industry has to come out, like they were telling about the B30s and so on, how do I make these branch managers aware? One is like you can create commercials, you can create flyers and all that. But then what is required is the simplicity of the product. Because if you find that a rural customer or a semi-urban customer needs to understand, how do I make it very simple for him to comprehend? If a mobile has penetrated to a rural place and that to a touch phone, nobody came and taught them. No, every dealer of mobile did not go and tell them that you have to press this, press that and all that. It was self-intuitive for them to learn. Similarly, these products needs to be that simple for them to comprehend, understand, and then be in a position to do it. And the other one is the guidance. Like suppose I get into an issue, is there somewhere where I can get that instantly? Can I get that feedback? It can be even over a call where I get that information, or if it can be some in the form of FAQs, which will enable them to understand that. That's where the digital helps, because we cannot have people at all the places, but I can have information at one place. A chatbot can do it. It can be just, I just log in and then I shoot my query, and then it intuitively learns the request and then puts forth to the customer, okay, do this, do this. And when there is a fall in the value, is there somebody who can give them that assurance that, okay, this is only a temporary thing, you just wait for some time, or you can exit out at this point in time, therefore there is a need for you to take a call. That sort of a thing, if it can be done in a seamless manner, in a manner in which the populace can understand, that I think would help them to definitely increase their reach and penetration.
Thank you, sir. From the viewers, there are two questions. One from Chitrali Majumdar. Training on mutual funds should not be restricted to few spots as in a bank branch. There are many customers touch points. So instead of present practice of training spots, certain basic training to all the touch points may be explored.
It's a good suggestion, and it's normally nowadays it's practice. It's no restriction to SPOC. I think.
Okay.
Are you talking about the bank or from the AMC?
Yeah,
In fact, let me tell you, one bank is there, one PSU bank. They incentivize the employee to be an S employee. ACE stands for AMP certified employee. Whether you are selling mutual fund or not, indifferent, but they should be aware. So they are incentivizing in terms of allowance and all to make somebody SE. So they're training all employees. Similarly, if you need AMC also to train in a SEBI approved format, we are a game for it, and everybody can go and give you training in awareness drive. That is not restricted.
Yeah, another question from the same viewer, Ms. Chitrali Majumdar. Customized mutual fund products based on locations, Tier 2 or Area 1, may be created similar to various asset products of banks at risk, as a risk appetite and financial goal varies in these locations.
Yeah, so
I think,
Ajit answer. Ajit, please answer.
No, go ahead, Mr. Mohanty, go ahead.
Fully we are concurring with that. So product innovation, which Ajit was talking about, and this you need a lot of blending of asset allocation and to create product. Let me tell you, whatever the product, the money is invested in the same ocean, one fixed income, one equity, and the salinity will remain same. And I remember reading a book called $1 Economy, in which is telling a labor class who saves $1 a day need to also invest $0.50 in equity, so and different asset class. So what is required is whatever our fund managers are investing and return potential that they are showing, that the dough or that raw material need to be mixed and matched to create understandable and right scale product for different places, different professions. I can tell you, we have a product, you will not believe, which is a fully SEBI approved product. we created it for milkmen of Bihar. Okay, and in literally sense, the product was Dudh Do Pension Lo. They didn't have monetized, they didn't have cash to give. They were giving milk, and which was through their milk federation coming to the state federation, and state federation in lieu of that, they transfer the cash to them. Instead of that, some 10% they give it to us, and that become their pension money. And 70,000 such people are there and depositing. They deposit 10 liters of additional milk to them, but in lieu of that, that pension product. So product innovation can take place in varieties of ways which will be suitable for the locality, what is required. And bank being available everywhere, omnipresent. So it will be very easy to actually create customized product sets, having different risk profile blended into it, and it will work. It will work.
Thank you. Another question from Ms. Preeta Sinha. Students who are the future investors need be knowledgeable about the different types of mutual funds, which is missing in today's scenario. What is that you are going to do for educating the students at the college level itself? Yes, I'll put it to Ajit. Ajit is answered.
No. So I think there are two ways of approaching this. One is it's important that mutual funds as a subject is actually introduced into our curriculum. Right, that's one way. But I think to me the larger point of view is in terms of personal finance itself. Right, I think that's the topic that hasn't really gained much traction, at least into the Indian education system. From whatever I remember, at least what I've seen, and from whatever I hear today, the children seem to be studying. I don't think there's much happening in terms of personal finance at a very practical level, right? I think to me that's a topic which needs to gain momentum, and we need to work very closely with the regulators, the various boards to actually bring in personal finance at a practical level, which will cover all products, including mutual funds, insurance, etc. But I think the second part of it is in terms of what AMCs can do. I think various AMCs, seem to be doing a lot of IAPs with college students, and some of these IAPs are also very gamified in nature. I know a couple of people who have actually tried to do, introduce the concept of mutual funds and investments and portfolios through a very simulated game. And it's not a half an hour or a 1 hour session. It's actually a multi-session module which they seem to be conducting. The way I look at it, I agree with the person who asked the question. I think the children of today will be the investors of tomorrow. And again, my point, which I mentioned in my closing remarks in the second session, was in terms of the social security need. I think the importance of creating a social security should be communicated and taught to the child, and not, unfortunately, not to someone in the 30s and 40s, because frankly, it will be too late to create a social security. So the social security need has to be communicated to the child, right, and to the students of today. And that can be communicated, by AMCs as well in these IIPs. So I agree with that point.
I want to add one thing. If our students understand and master trigonometry, calculus, coordinate geometry, why can't they understand CAGR, inflation, eating into this? And we have simply deprived of them. In fact, let me tell you, forget about students' parents and students' teachers also are not aware about this very life-saving concepts. If you talk to them about HIV, you think that is a good because they will protect this thing or coronavirus. Why not these things which Ajit told, it will save their life when they grow up? They don't know the difference between the real rate of interest, inflation, and financial planning, how money grows. Lot of simple things can be brought into the course at board of secondary education level from class 6 onward, compulsory. Now government has started thinking in that line, but very simplified manner. We are being taught lot of things that dy by dx has never come into my life after we pass out the college. But this thing would have come to our life, every point of this thing, at what rate I am paying in EMI, what rate is stated in the brochure, what is the difference, what is reducing balance on. All these things are actually life-saving, I will say.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Anushri Malik, this is already recorded and this will be published in the YouTube. You will be in the Indian Chamber of Commerce site, YouTube channel. You can see this. Okay, that's all about the question from the viewers. Now, finally, come to the last part of it. On behalf of the Indian Chamber of Commerce, I thank all the panelists for sparing their valuable time and share their knowledge and experience. So I also thank the viewers for patient listening and valuable feedback or queries. I hope that all will grow despite the pandemic and make the economy of the country also strong. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.